We are live.
Live? All right.
We are.
Hello.
All right. So, how are you, Rhea?
I am doing well. I just came off of a wonderful little, my first meeting of my mastermind yesterday, and it was really, really wonderful. So I am looking forward to the next 4 weeks with these ladies. It was really good.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
so great. I love mastermind groups.
it is. It it's for a facilitator. It can be exhausting, but you get such a charge from the discussion. It's just really.
Yes, mastermind groups, working in groups like that, there's so much energy
Yeah.
in it, and great things happen in mastermind groups. They really do.
So I am looking forward to seeing what is to come, because I what I love about this group is that they have just such great anticipation for what they've not done this before, but they just have determined that this is going to be a great experience, and that is wonderful. That's wonderful to walk into.
Great attitude. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what's our topic going to be tonight?
I saw one of our good friends within the John Maxwell organization, and a wonderful supporter of ours, Desiree, uh, posted a quick. Actually, it was a meme, but it asked a question. Just asking why, or at what point have did we determine that a failure was a bad thing? And she asked it much more eloquently than I just did. But you know,
Mm,
why have we determined that if you fail, you lose, as opposed to if you fail, there's a possibility that you can win?
mm,
And I've heard this question before about failure and quitting after failure, and I've been there. Been there. I've had failure, and something happens, something hurts. You're like, "Ooh, I'm not going to do that again." And but then you think about people who did fail in some sense. They tried something, it didn't work, and then they decided to try it again. And we always hear the stories of Thomas Edison, and his hundreds and hundreds and thousands of experiments, and being asked about that. Why do you continue to go back to the bench if you have had these failures? It's not a failure. I just know that particular formula won't work again, or that particular experience, or that particular experiment, with those elements in that specific range, it won't work. So now I have to tweak it and try something else. And without that attitude, where would we be? And what would he have accomplished if he have quit every time he failed?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just thought, I'd like to talk about that a little bit. I don't know if anyone is experiencing failure, but I've had moments where I've tried things and it just didn't work, and and before, not wanting to give up, just not wanting to give up, and before I would give up, I just have to really talk myself up, and encourage myself to be able to go back and try this again. And it could be something as minor, or not minor to the person, but I had experience where you get up and go speak, and it just doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. I remember getting up to speak and opening my mouth, and I don't know what whose voice that was that came out of my. I don't know where those words came. It just, I'm standing there thinking, this sounds like just gibberish. What in the world is going on here? So that was a fail. But I knew that the next time I just had to do it differently.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I think what you said before, like about the people in your mastermind group, their attitude, their anticipation in such a positive way, that's, that's what counts when we fail, and our younger generation has real difficulty with failure. There's a great deal of fear around failure. They don't want to be looked at as a failure. They don't want to be viewed as a failure. But I knew we were going to talk about this today, so I got John's book out. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
yes.
And there's, there's a lot of great stuff in here about failing being not a failure ever, but it's all in the way we look at it. It's all in our attitude. But one of the things he says in here is when we fail or have a bad experience, we need to learn to become more like scientists and inventors.
Mm-hmm.
When their work fails, they call it an experiment that didn't work. They learn from it and move on into the next time.
Right.
Psychologist Dr. Joyce Brothers says the person interested in success has to learn to view failure as a healthy, inevitable part of the process of getting to the top. So people looking for success have to anticipate that we're not going to get it always the first time, or the second, maybe not even the third.
Right.
And if you want it bad enough, you learn from every one of those times, but failing is not an option. Didn't they say that when they were trying to get Apollo 13 landed? Failure is not an option, remember?
Yes. But failure is inevitable, in some form.
But the way you think about it, if we think about failure as a failure,
Mm-hmm.
to me, I don't view failure as an option because I don't think I fail.
Well, and maybe what we need to do is reframe that word. Then the word is not failure. It's a non-success. This moment I had it was not successful, but it's not a failure because I'm going to go back and go back to the drawing board and do what needs to be done. Just take another look at that experiment and
If
tweak. Oh yes, absolutely. And I think it
we
is.
stop, it might be a failure.
Yeah, I think if I quit,
Right.
absolutely,
Right. If you quit, it's a failure.
that's
But
right.
if we don't quit, it's really not a failure. And I don't view things as that. I view it in this is what it looks like as I'm going to reach my goal.
Hmm.
This is just part of what it looks like,
Hmm.
when we're going to reach that goal.
I
So
There's a quote in the book that says a quality that distinguishes a successful person from one who is otherwise like him is the capacity to manage disappointment and loss. And I agree with what you're saying about some of our younger people. Teaching We have to teach them to manage disappointment and loss. It is not about everyone getting a participation trophy because what happens is they go out to work in the world, in
mhm,
the world, as people say, and then not to get that perfect performance review that first time. It was hurtful and devastating, and they've got to learn to handle that loss or that disappointment, and hear what is being said so that they can learn how to improve their performance.
yeah,
So it's all about how we manage it. Is
right.
we about life being more about less about what happens and more about how we respond to what happens.
Yes, and that's what we have control over, and that's really the key. I mean, one of the things I say to a lot of the young people is that it's not how high you jump, it's how high you bounce. You know, it's not how fast you go, but how do you bounce? What happens when you hit the ground? Do you stay there? Do you hang out for a little while? Do you camp out? Or do you bounce? Do you say, okay, this is what it looks like as I'm on my way to my goal? Because that's how I view it. And I don't view things as a failure. Like, to me, it's not an option, only because it's in my mind, failure isn't real unless I stop.
Mhm.
It's kind of like having money in the stock market. The market goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, but you don't realize the loss unless you sell and you get
Yes.
out, right? So if you have a big enough dream and a big enough goal, then you know that there's going to be bumps in the road on the way there.
And
That's how it's going to be. And you can actually anticipate them, that
but
it's
and
going to be okay.
going to come. They're going and with a big enough dream, a big enough goal, you've got to have that big desire for it to that really strong desire for something to come. Not just have a dream. It goes beyond just having the dream. It's having that burning desire for that dream to come true.
And a plan for the dream to come true. Otherwise, it stays a dream. And
Yes.
we can do that as a topic one day too, is, we can all have these goals, but how do we really get them to happen?
Mhm.
Right? And we need a lot of things. And we've talked about a lot of the things we need. We need an inner circle. You know, we need a growth plan. We need good habits. We need a lot of what we do, a lot of professional and personal growth. Because when we're listening to things like that, when we're listening to people saying failure is not a failure, you take from it what you can and you move on. When we hear that over and over and over, that conditioning that we have about, oh, a failure, oh no, it goes away when we hear how it's necessary to get to where we want to be. Now, our comments, I know we have a delay, but we do have a comment on here that's not showing on our screen yet from Donna, and she
Well,
said, "Do you see it?"
I can see it.
Okay, because it's not showing on my screen yet, but it's on my other one. So failure can be stepping stones to growth and opportunity in challenging ourselves.
That is right. I love that. Oh, and I also see Mary Bess is watching as well. So hello to both of you.
Yes, and hello to David and Mary. Hi, Mary. My cousin Terry and Rob Colangelo. So we've got a bunch of people out here. And those that, I can't see that tell me, oh, I watch every Tuesday. Thank you for doing that. And so what Rhea and I do, just to let you know, because we have some new people tonight, we dedicate a half an hour, 30 minutes to your personal. Rhea and I are both partners with the John Maxwell team. We're leadership coaches, trainers, and we dedicate this half hour on Tuesday evenings to you and your personal growth. Because
That's
just a half hour once a week, that's all it could take to learn something to do differently in your life.
it could just be something small.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, water at 211 degrees is hot. At 212 degrees, it boils. You know what happens with boiling water? It creates steam. You know what you can do with steam? You can run a locomotive engine.
Right.
The difference between 1 degree. So that's what we're about. How can you step it up a little bit? How can you make your life into the one you've always wanted and even better? I mean, my life is pretty good, but I'll tell you, I don't stop. I do something every day. But so, Donna, getting back to Donna's comment,
Yes.
failures can be stepping stones to growth and opportunity in challenging ourselves. That is so true.
It is. It's a it presents itself with a wonderful opportunity, and we have to make a decision to learn from it. Whatever comes, I'm going to examine this just like a scientist. I'm going to examine this. What so there wasn't a success at that point, but what happened? It could be something as basic as I talk about I bake. If I bake and something doesn't come out right, the first thing I'm going to ask is, well, what happened? And let's walk through and understand that. And it's having a sense of humility to, where you're actually asking about the what happened. And the book talks about asking what happened as opposed to blaming someone.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking at the situation, and and it could be, you know, someone didn't do what they needed to do, but instead of blame, you're really trying to understand what happened so that when you try this again, you won't repeat it. You won't repeat it the same way.
Right.
So,
Right. What did I do right? What went well?
mhm,
And what could we do better? Right?
right.
You almost analyze it as if it's a learning opportunity, because it is. And Donna, if we viewed failure, I don't even like that word, but if we viewed foiled attempts as an opportunity to challenge ourselves, that's an opportunity for growth. So if we're not experiencing failures, then we're not stepping out of our comfort zone.
That's that is true. And I have lived that too, where I was very intentional about avoiding those things that I thought I would fail at. And
Mm.
but you know, I got to a point where I just thought my life was fairly dull and unchallenged. And I realized that the people who were interesting were those people who had been through, you know, tough times, tough situations, and come out with a story, with a testimony, and you know, could talk to us in a way that was encouraging. And you know, and it's not just that there is um, non-success or failure, but there are also disappointments that happen too. And you know, I heard someone, in each life some rain must fall. Okay, it's coming. There will be something or someone that disappoints you. There will be something sad that happens in your life. If it hasn't happened yet, the old people used to say, keep a living. Just keep a living, because you know there are things that are going to come. And how do you regroup, retool, and reorganize yourself so that you can get back out and continue to grow and continue to develop? It is all about how we respond to those things. And some things that happen are just so painful that you think you won't recover from them. And you have to have one of those moments where you know you just say, I can only get out of bed for 15 minutes today, but when I do, I'll at least get out and hit the shower. And then maybe the next day you'll do more and you'll do more, and then you'll find yourself, you're back, still a little sad, but back on track. So you know, there's a lot that happens, and I'm not making light of any of that, and not just saying, oh, just suck it up and get up. uh, that's not what we're talking about. There is disappointment, and there are those perceived failures, but you
Right.
keep going.
Right. And we're talking tonight more about failures, you
Hmm.
know, disappointments, loss. Loss is really difficult. Those are different than failures. Failures are more trying to do something that doesn't work out the way you wanted it to. And you could look at it in a variety of ways. You could look at it as, I failed, I should stop, I'm only going to make things worse. Or your view could be, well, this is going to happen until I figure it out. And if you look at the great people, like the people that made it to greatness, like athletes, athletes tell you all the time, I'm only great because of all the times I failed.
Hmm.
You know, you see all of the greatness that I've done, but believe me, I had more strikeouts than I had home runs.
Well,
And
that's why athletes practice so hard. Is because you know, they've got to they'll shoot the same shot hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times and miss it how many times, and
Mhm.
trying to figure out, you know, what is that formula, what is it that they can repeat to make it successful more often than not.
But they don't stop. And if it ever got in their head that I can't hit the ball or I'm a failure, that would be the end of it. That would be the end of it because it's all a mental game.
Hmm.
It's all a mental game, right? You and I both know that.
As
That
a, if you perceive yourself as a failure, guess what? If you think you can't do something or won't do something, guess what? So it comes down to what you think.
right, you'll never outperform your self-image. It won't happen. It's a
That's right.
self-fulfilling prophecy. It will, whatever you think will be. And one of the things I read once was, I wrote this down, one of the biggest secrets of success is operating inside your strength zone, but outside your comfort zone.
Ooh, I love that.
And sometimes we avoid our strength zone because it could be outside of our comfort zone.
Hmm.
And we don't want to take the chance of failing.
That's right.
And how many people do you know that that'll say something to you as they're older? I always wished I could do blah blah blah.
But remember us
Right?
butts last week.
We did the butts last week, but this is another but. This is the but that is the fear of failure.
Yep.
That what will people say if it doesn't happen? What if, listen, you and I doing these Facebook lives, I mean, I have to say, more people are saying nice things about them, but I know there are some people saying, oh my gosh, she gets on live every week. What is there to talk? Oh my gosh, like you have to be prepared for that. Some
Yes.
people, some people aren't going to get it.
Hey, some people aren't going to get it. Some people aren't going to like it. Uh, some people, I mean, there are all kinds of things that go through people's minds, and it's not for everyone. And they're processing based on their own self beliefs. So yeah, and the funny thing is, it gets. I mean, when we started out, well, first of all, we had lots of technical difficulties, and I think we've pretty much worked through those now. But it it's gotten easier, and it's
Yeah,
gotten easier for us to talk, and that's how life works.
right. But that's a great point because we had a lot of things to learn to do this. Neither one of us had ever done it before. And we got through it. And it did get easier. Every time got easier. And now it's actually a lot of fun.
Yes, I
So,
and we could have given up. I mean, because we had a couple of weeks where that we could have just stopped right then. We had one week where we had to stop and start all over again. So
yes, we did.
it's but we persisted, and because we have a strong desire, because we both have a dream, and we it was exactly as the book says. We looked at this as an experiment. Okay, that didn't work. We would sit and pick it apart. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. This works. Let's repeat that. So yes, it's very. This is all very real. It's very real for both of us. We have not mastered all of these things.
Yeah,
Live through it and live with it every day.
right. And we're not here professing to say that we've mastered any of this.
Right.
But what we do know is that every day we work hard
Hmm.
at being leaders in our own lives,
Hmm.
as practicing leadership, as professional and personal growth every day. So we know what it can do for you. And
Yes.
and one of the reasons we are dedicated to doing this is because we know the difference it can make in your life. To just change a few things or just to sit down and think about it. How do you view failure? What have you failed at? Rhea, what have you failed at?
Uh, let's see. I've talked about wanting to be an actor, and that did not work. But I learned from that what I enjoyed. And I enjoyed being in front of people. I didn't have a fear of that. I also learned that I could project and share a message. And but it took me a while to put it all together. But that was, some people would have perceived that as, a failure. You failed, go to work and do whatever else you do, move on. And I moved on, but I moved on knowing that I wasn't finished.
Mm.
Know what was next, but I knew I wasn't finished. Let's see, other things that I've failed at. Okay, so, I've talked about baking, so I've failed times at baking things. And it's the same thing. You figure out what works, what doesn't, and then you move on. And one of the things I remind myself is, don't bake something for the first time and have to take it to a group of people. You'll be embarrassed. But and there's that, and just, thank God I'm not in the dating scene anymore. But there were plenty of lessons that I learned back in the years when I was single.
Yeah.
And then on the personal development side, personal growth, uh, getting to the point where I said, the things that I'm doing, the things I'm saying, the way that I'm interacting with not only other people but myself, this is not working. And I would consider my life a failure if I continue on this path. I've got to do something different, because I want to be happy.
Mhm.
I don't want to make anyone else unhappy. So that's where a lot of the self study, self awareness, self assessment, the journaling, asking myself, the real questions that I needed to ask myself. What did I, if there was something that failed, what was my contribution to that?
Mm.
Anything, but being very honest with myself about myself.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Which is really important. I mean, I remember with when I got married, Chris would ski. Now I was, 24. I had never skied
Hmm.
ever. And he said, "Oh, but it'll be great because one day we could take our family skiing and we could have these great trips." And I'm thinking, "Are you kidding? I'm going to go up to the top of that mountain and slide on these two things that like go fast." And I'll tell you, I was scared and I did not get it for a while. I mean, we were up in Vermont and I'll never forget, we were at Killington. I literally slid down that mountain, well, practically the whole way. And I thought about not doing it. I thought about saying, you know what, I can't do this. My legs are not long. What that had to do with it, I don't think it had anything to do with it, but I remember thinking, well, maybe it's because my legs aren't long. I don't know, but you know what? He really wanted this,
Uh-huh.
and he was doing it, and I kept going until I got it. And the interesting thing is that today we still go on ski trips with our family.
Oh, yes, yes, you went on one not too long ago.
We go every year. We've gone every year since my kids were little. So if I gave up on that, and I could have because it did not go well in the beginning,
Hmm.
um, we would have never had all that, But I looked at it more like a challenge,
Hmm.
and I knew it was important to him. So when things challenge us, it could be in disguise of something that other people might view as a failure. But let's face it, if you are not experiencing any failures or any difficulties, then you are living in your comfort zone.
Right.
And and you know what? It's okay if that's where you want to be, but we can't expect greatness in here. Greatness is never in here. So if you're not experiencing these kinds of challenges, you're not venturing out. And I challenge you to venture out of your comfort zone because that's where greatness is. Greatness is not in here. Good is in here. You'll be okay.
Yes. Yeah, you'll be good.
Yeah.
But
Good is the enemy of great, but that's okay.
yeah, and if you're talking about living out your dreams, I mean, I've never heard anyone say my dream is to be, just good. But it's you hear people talk about things that are great and wonderful. It's not everyone doesn't want to be on stage and be the next Tina Turner. I mean, that's not what everyone dreams of. And there are some people who have a dream. I just want my kids to go. Not just. I want my kids to go to college and have a better life. That's a wonderful dream. And then how are you going to make that happen? But if you sit back and say, whatever whatever happens, we'll just see. No, you got to push. You got to push some things out.
Right.
Um, yeah.
And you have to want to be better every day. You
Yes.
have to want to be better every day. And if you're in the lives of youth, if you are a parent, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, if you're around youth, let me tell you, they know whether you are growing or not. They know whether you are doing your best every day. And they're watching you, and you are a role model for them. And it's really sad because there was something on Facebook just the other day about what youth are doing and how they're self-harming, and it's so terrible what they're doing. That's what this said. And I had to hold myself back from commenting and saying, we're leading them. We are leading our youth.
Yeah.
So it's time to step up. It's time to show them that we don't quit when something looks like a failure. It's time to show them that we still grow, even though we're adults. We have a lot to learn. My growth journey is never ending.
It continues. It continues. And being honest about those non-successes or perceived failures, talking about things that have happened, you and letting them know that you're not judging them, because guess what, I've been there. I've had to, let me tell you some of the stories, and share with them what your life really is. Show them your true self, and that's not always easy, because there's a concern sometimes that if you tell them some of the things you really did, that they won't respect you. No, I think for many of our young people, that's helpful to them, so that they know it's not just them, that that there are other people who have survived what they're going through, and they've thrived. So it's share, be authentic,
Yeah.
and be transparent, and that means that be vulnerable. Oh my goodness, we could talk a lot about that.
Yeah, because if you're not, they look at you as if you're perfect and you've never done anything wrong. You never could do anything wrong. And that just puts more pressure on them, you know. But growth, in order for growth to keep happening, we have to step out of a comfort zone. We're going to fail, if you want to call it fail, or foiled attempts. There are going to be times like that. So how well do you bounce?
Hmm.
What's your resiliency factor?
Hmm.
How bad do you want it? And,
Yes.
and you can't use the excuse that, you're not a teenager anymore, you're not young, because growth growth isn't about age.
No, and it continues. It continues, and you're not too old to. The only time it's too late to grow, guess what, is when you did. That's the only time. But it is there is growth in the most dire situations where you think people aren't growing, aren't paying. There are lessons out there, that in things that appear to be mundane, and people come out of that with the greatest lessons that they can share with others. So this is a topic we could talk about for. We keep getting these topics. We only have a half hour, and we could
Yeah.
just.
So
Yeah.
we're going to wind down, but one thing I want to leave you with is, what are you afraid of failing at?
Yes.
You know, because there is no such thing as failure. It's all in here. And in order to master something, it's not going to be right the first time, the second time, maybe not even the third time, but don't give up on it.
No, don't give up. I ask a question like that to my team around the holidays, which was if if there was something, is there something you would do if you knew you would not fail? And we all have an answer to that.
Yeah. Yeah, we do if we're honest with ourselves, you know. So that's something we can leave them with tonight is what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail at it? What might you attempt if you knew failure was not going to happen? Because honestly, we can program our minds not to view anything as a failure. It's part of our journey in getting to where we want to be.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that.
All right, so Rhea and I are going to an awesome training together in Rochester on Friday, and we're going to be spending the day with the president of the John Maxwell team, Paul Martinelli, and Heather Manzano, who is a fellow JMT person, trainer, coach, and she's also doing some faculty work with the John Maxwell team now. So we're really excited, and I'm sure we'll take some things back with us that we can share with you next week.
I know I am looking forward. I'll be looking for those things that we can grab hold of and bring back with us. So yes.
And in the meantime, if you have any suggestions on topics that you'd like us to explore, please put it in the comments. We read them all the time. If this was helpful to you, like it or send us a message or something that shows us that you're walking away with something, because that's really what matters to us.
Yes, and share it. If this has helped you, share it with someone else you think would benefit as well. And we thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for giving us this time, and even more importantly, for giving yourself this time.
That's right. That's right. Because it's not just about tuning in to us, it's about tuning in on Tuesdays to yourself.
Right. So I celebrate that you did this for you, and I hope that it's just the start of all the other things you're going to do for you. Somebody, do you see that comment? Paulette came on a little late, but I'll be sure to tune in next time. We hope so, Paulette. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and have a ridiculously amazing week.
Ridiculously amazing. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.